Fans, how we doing? Welcome to the Week 9 ESPN Power Rankings, where we're going to go through all 32 teams and where they're ranked and what we think about them. See how they went from last week to this week on their week-to-week basis, and also go over their new thing for this week, which was their best offseason acquisition. But before I get started, let me go ahead and insert a plug. If you're not following me on YouTube, TikTok, and X, make sure to follow me on all three platforms. The handle's the same no matter where you go. It's the What's Up Titans Fans pod, and I put out videos all throughout the week. I'm talking Monday through Friday, either shorts or longer videos like this, sometimes lives like this, and it all depends on the Tennessee Titans content that comes out. But on Mondays, it's always a post-game show, and on Fridays, it's always a pre-game show for the upcoming game. And on Sundays, sometimes I do a watch party. I didn't do it this last weekend because the game was so horrible. I knew we was going to get blown out, especially from the week before, because they make the games miserable to watch. But I still watched it. I did a halftime report, which was pretty successful, so I may do that again this upcoming week. But look, let's go ahead and get started with things. At number 32, we have the Carolina Panthers at 1-7. And just so you know, Carolina, the Tennessee Titans are coming for you because we're trying to get that number 1 overall pick. We want Shador, so you got to win a game this season. We need you to win. But yes, they lost last week to the Broncos 28-14. They were ranked 32 last week. They are still ranked at number 32 this week. And, you know, they have no playmakers on their team. That's why showing their best offseason acquisition is a guard, Robert Hunt, because they have no playmakers, you know, and of course they didn't get anyone in the offseason, right? They ended up getting Andy Dalton, which is their backup QB, which is now their starter, which is a surprise, right? Because they should be playing Bryce Young. You should see what your previous first-round draft pick has. Let them play the entire season, but they're not rolling with it. They're playing Andy Dalton because they got him that one dub in the year. That was a fluke. But yes, they got beat by the Broncos, who are an up-and-coming team. They're doing pretty good this year. They're at like 5-3. I think they're a lot higher in the ratings. The next team we have is, of course, the one and only, the Tennessee Titans. We are 1-6. We got blown out by the Detroit Lions 52-14. What a miserable game to watch, right? We kept it a little competitive in the first half, but our special teams was so bad. We kept allowing short yard fields. I mean, Jared Goff finished the game with like 85 passing yards, and they still had 52 points. It could have been 70 easy, but Dan Campbell led up at the end of the game and just ran the ball the entire fourth quarter. But for our best offseason acquisition, they're talking about Tony Pollard. So if we take a second and just look how Tony Pollard's done so far on the year, let me scroll down a little bit. He has 114 carries, 494 yards, 3 tutties with a long of 41. So yes, he's by far our best offseason acquisition because I know we had other guys like Snead and stuff, but he's been hurt. Awuzie's on IR. Ridley, he just had his first big game. So yes, Tony Pollard is the most consistent offseason acquisition we've had. He's been pretty good all year. Above us is another division rival right here, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are absolute garbage. They're 2-6. They're trying to get ahead of us in this draft for draft picks, but it's not going to happen. The Tennessee Titans are too bad. But they lost to the Green Bay Packers. And speaking of the Green Bay Packers, they had Malik Willis, a guy we gave up, is just coming out and shining once again. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Tennessee Titans, why we could not get Malik Willis to work out. We've played many games for us, but here he is beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 30-27. And they did fall in the power rankings from 27 last week to 30 this week. And it's showing their best offseason acquisition is Brian Thomas Jr. So let's go ahead and see how he did. He's a wide receiver they ended up getting. And in the regular season so far, he's caught 33 receptions on 49 targets, 573 yards, and 5 tutties. This man's already looking better than Calvin Ridley has. And this guy is, he's new to the team, all right? And, yeah, Calvin Ridley, not that good. At least Brian Thomas Jr., he's looking good for him. The New England Patriots are next. They're ranked number 29. They went up in the rankings, right, because they won. They beat the Jets 25-20. 22. The Jets look like a disaster, but I'm glad the New England Patriots won because you know why? That puts them above us, and we verse them next week. Hopefully we lose, but if we were to win a game, it's gonna be against the New England Patriots because they are a horrible organization as well. And look, Drake May got hurt early in the game. They brought in Brissett. He ended up winning the game for him, 25-22, and they did go up from 31 to 29, and it does show their best offseason acquisition is Drake May. So we can go ahead and check him out. I know he hasn't played all the games this season. He only played in a few because they were starting Brissett at the start, but he does have 53 completions on 84 attempts, sitting at a 63.1 completion percentage, 64 yards, and 5 tutties to 2 interceptions. That is not bad for Drake May, considering his limited play time. Next, we got the New York Giants. We saw them play last night on Monday Night Football where they lost to them Steel Boys 26-18. They were at 2-6. They went down in the rankings. They were 26 last week. Now they're at 28. And it's showing their best offseason acquisition was Malik Neighbors. We saw him yesterday. He did pretty well. He almost had a good catch over the shoulder, but he ended up dropping it. And they did that crazy 2-point conversion play where they had him lined up behind some blockers and no one blocked anybody. They came straight in and tackled the guy immediately. But yes, Malik Neighbors, who a lot of Titans fans wanted us to get so far in the season, has 46 receptions, 73 yards, 498 yards, and 3 tutties. Now, if we would have drafted him as a Tennessee Titan, he wouldn't have put up numbers like that. I'm telling you that right now. Our team's too bad. Everyone would have been saying he's a bust like Burks. Next, we're talking about the New York Jets, the team that beat us. We're one of their 2 wins, right? They have Aaron Rodgers, but we all know he is not the MVP Aaron Rodgers. They lost to the New England Patriots with Jacoby Brissett for most of the game, 25-22. They drop in the rankings from 24 to 27. And then their best offseason acquisition is Braylon Allen. Let's go ahead and look at his stats as well. So far on the season, he has 49 carries, 187 yards, a 3.8 yard average, and 2 tutties. So that's where they're sitting right there with their best offseason acquisition. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns. Hey, I'm surprised they're up this high at 26. I know they won. They beat the Ravens 29-24. It's probably because Jameis Winston ended up starting. I mean, you saw his pregame speeches. You've seen him trying to motivate his team. Jameis Winston is an all-star at making these pregame speeches. I love it when he did it in New Orleans. I love it when he was eating W's in Tampa. He's an outstanding QB. You gotta love his motivation. But yeah, they won 29-24. They went up in the rankings from 30 to 26, even though they're sitting at 2-6. And their best offseason acquisition is Jordan Hicks, a linebacker. And we can go ahead and see how he's done throughout the season. So far, he has 24 total tackles, 14 solos, 10 assists, and a sack, and a couple pass deflects on the year. Next is the Las Vegas Raiders. They lost to the Chiefs 31-29. What a close game to the Chiefs. But, the Chiefs are probably going to win every game. They got the Swifties on their side. They got the refs on the side. They got the NFL on their side. They are hiding behind the NFL shield. But they went up in the rankings from 28 to 25, sitting at 2-6. And their best offseason acquisition was Brock Bowers. And look, that's what we needed. That's who I kind of wanted for most of the draft, especially if we weren't trading up. We might as well get Brock Bowers because he was a good tight end in college, and obviously he's doing well in the NFL. We have 0 tight end ability on the Tennessee Titans. We have Josh Wiley, who, when he catches the ball, he's so slow. He can't make any moves. He's like the least agile person I've ever seen catch the ball. Then we have Chig, who just doesn't get the ball, even though he's pretty quick. And then we have Vanette, who's just a pass blocker. And we have 2 other tight ends in DMR and Kudiaway, or whatever his name is, that we haven't even seen on the field. We kept 5 tight ends, and 2 of them hasn't even played in a game yet. So, yeah. Let's see what Brock Bowers has brought to the Las Vegas Raiders, what we could have had if we would have got Brock Bowers in the draft. Yeah, sitting on the season, this man has 52 receptions, 65 targets, 535 yards, and a tutty. He could have been a Tennessee Titan. I know we got Latham. Latham, yes, we needed a tackle, but man, it would have been nice to get a playmaker. And we were going to get one this year because we are going to be so high in the draft. We got to get a quarterback, got to get a playmaker, because if we end up getting like the first or second round pick and get an offensive lineman, I swear I'm going to lose my mind. Anyway, next team, we're talking about the New Orleans Saints. They're 2-6. They haven't won a game since week 2. They started 2-0, blowing out teams, and then they lost 6 straight. And as you see last week, they lost to the Chargers 26-8. I mean, that's almost a blowout. You know what I'm saying? It's not as bad as the Tennessee Titans blowout, but it was almost a blowout. And then they ended up staying where they were from last week, right? They were 22 last week. They're still ranked number 22. And their best offseason tackle was a tackle. Acquisition was a tackle. It's Fuega, but they don't have any stats, so I can't pull anything up for them. So we're just going to keep on driving. Next, we're talking about the Miami Dolphins. Even with Tua back, they still ended up losing, right? They lost 28-27 to the Arizona Cardinals, which is a surprise because Call of Duty's out. I did not think Kyler Murray would be able to get the dub, especially with Tua being out. But even though they lost, they did move up in the power rankings just because other teams were worse, right? They're 2-5. They went from 25 to 23. And their best offseason acquisition was Calais Campbell, a defensive lineman. Let's go ahead and see how he's done for the Dolphins. So far on this season, he's sitting at 22 total tackles, 17 solo, 5 assists, and 2 sacks with a forced fumble, and 3 pass deflects from the big man putting up his hands at the D-line, swatting down balls. All right. After that, we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, 3-5. Joe Burrow, he's doing good. He's having a good season. The defense is just that bad. As you see, they lost to the Eagles 37-17. The defense needs to step up for these Bengals. But they went from 19 to 22. And their best offseason acquisition was Mims, which is a right tackle, which once again has 0 stats for us to show. So we'll just continue driving on. Next, division rival, the Indianapolis Colts. They're sitting at 4-3. They're ranked at 21. They did go down from 20 from last week because they lost to the Texans 23-20. And look, I'm not saying the Colts are overrated because they're a division rival. They are actually overrated. Richardson is a bad QB. He has the worst QBR in the NFL. Just think, he's going against guys like Levis and stuff like that, and he's still the worst QBR in the NFL. This man took himself out of the game just because he was tired. Everyone knew he was a bad QB in college. He's a bad QB in the NFL, but they just keep playing him. He has all this hype because of his combine. His combine is what made his NFL draft stock go up dramatically, which is wild. All right, now sitting at 20, we got them Dallas Cowboys. We them boys in the house. They're sitting at 3-4, but they lost to the 49ers, which is a good NFL team. They lost 30-24. They dropped in the rankings from 15 all the way to 20, a big droppage. And their best offseason acquisition was Eric Kendricks. So let's go ahead and see how he's helped out them boys this season. So far on the season, he's got 61 tackles for them boys, 28 solo, 33 assists with 2 sacks and a forced fumble along with an interception. And he has a couple pass deflects on the season. Kendrick's having a good season for the Dallas Cowboys. So look, right now we're about to get into the top 20. But before I do, I just want to remind everyone who's watching, don't forget to like the video. It helps the channel out. It helps bring people in. Go ahead and send a like and subscribe. Help your boy out. But let's continue moving on now. The Los Angeles Rams, they are 3-4. They did win last week. They beat the Vikings, who the Vikings were considered one of the better teams in the NFL a couple weeks ago, but they lost a couple straight. Now they lost 30-20, so who knows about the Vikings, right? But anyway, the Los Angeles Rams went from 23 to 19, and their best offseason acquisition was Jarrett Verse. Let's see how he's done as a linebacker for him. So in the regular season, he has 29 total tackles. 17 solo, 29 total, 12 assists, 2.5 sacks, along with a forced fumble, helping out them Rams at 3-4. Next, we got the Carolina Panthers. Like I said, I think they're going to do worse as the season goes on because Call of Duty is out. The Black Ops 6. We all know how Kyler Murray is. But they ended up beating the Dolphins, surprisingly, with Tua coming back 28-27, which was a pretty good game for the Dolphins considering they looked horrendous without Tua on the field. But yeah, they went up from 21-18, and their best offseason acquisition was Marvin Harrison Jr. What a steal in the draft, right? So far, he ended up giving them 26 receptions on 50 targets for 411 yards, over a 15-yard average, 5 tutties, and a long of 60. Man, it would have been so nice to get him with the Tennessee Titans. I'm telling you, brother. Now, the next is the Los Angeles Chargers, sitting at 4-3. They ended up blowing out the Saints 26-8, which the Saints look like garbage this year, but they went up from 18-17. You don't go up that far in the rankings for beating the New Orleans Saints, who won their first 2 games and lost 6 straight. But their best offseason acquisition was J.K. Dobbins. Remember, he came from the Ravens. But yes, he ended up giving them so far this season 112 carries, 535 yards, a 4.8-yard average, and 4 tutties with a long of 61. He also caught the ball 19 times for 87 yards. Hey, that's pretty good for an offseason acquisition. Next, we're moving to the Denver Broncos. What a surprise for the year. Coming into the season, I'm telling you, no one thought they were going to be 5-3. Especially with Bo Nix. Everyone doubted Bo Nix coming into the season. But they're 5-3. They just beat the Panthers, who is arguably the worst team in the NFL. We're right there with the Tennessee Titans. One of us are getting the first pick in the draft. But they beat the Panthers 28-14. They moved up from 17-16. It's another one of those wins where you are not moving up very much for beating the Panthers. But anyway, their best offseason acquisition was John Franklin Myers, a defensive end. Let's go ahead and see how he's helped them out. So far on the season, he has 18 total tackles, 9 solo, 9 assists, and 3 sacks. Not too bad. Next, we got the Chicago Bears. 4-3. They ended up beating us week 1. They blocked a couple punts because our special teams is so bad. But look, they ended up losing to the Commanders 18-15. It was like a Hail Mary by Jaden Daniels at the end of the game, which gave them the last second lead to beat them, right? They went from 14-15. Their best offseason acquisition was Caleb Williams, of course. I mean, who else would it be? The media loves this man. Painted nails and all. But so far on the season, Caleb Williams is sitting at 140 completions on 223 attempts, a 62% completion rate, 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So he does have 5 interceptions on the season. He's got to get that worked out a little bit, but not bad for a rookie. I'm just wishing Will Levis had those numbers. I'm telling you, if he had those numbers, we might just be a winning organization. Next, the Seattle Seahawks. 4-4. They got beat by the Bills, but look, the Bills, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. You're going to lose to the Bills, but it did drop a couple spots in the rankings from last week. They were 12. They went down to 14. Their best offseason acquisition is the defensive tackle, Brian Murphy II. Let's see how he's helped out them Seahawks, right? So far, he has 14 total tackles, 7 solos, 7 assists, and a half sack. It's hard getting stats as a defensive tackle. Like, we got Big T Sweat in the middle. He makes lots of disruptions for us. He's one of the better people on the line because he's outplaying Big Jeff right now. But his stats aren't showing miraculous numbers. But it's just because he clogs the hole. He gets in the backfield and he disrupts things while other people make plays. Next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Bet down there with Baker Mayfield. They ended up losing to the Falcons 31-26, where the Falcons now became the number 1 team in the NFC South. But they went from number 10 to 13, and they ended up getting their best offseason acquisition in their runner back, Bucky Irvin. Let's see how he's done for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On the season, only 76 carries, 395 yards, 5.2-yard average, and 3 tutties. He also has 20 receptions, which is pretty good for 164 yards. But, he's not the starting runner back. He is a backup runner back, but he is their best offseason acquisition according to the ESPN Power Rankings. Next, we're looking at the San Francisco 49ers. They're at 4-4. They're ranked number 12. They went up from being 13 because they beat the Dallas Cowboys 30-24. And their best offseason acquisition is their guard Pooney, which he has no stats. Guards, offensive lineman, any type of center, tackle, there's no stats they show on here. So you can't see pancakes or sacks allowed or anything like that if I click on his name. So we'll just move on from there. Next, the Atlanta Falcons sitting at 5-3. They beat the Buccaneers, who we just talked about, 31-26, moving from 16 all the way to 11. Atlanta ATL is almost in the top 10. But yes, their best offseason acquisition is Kirk Cousins. And what an acquisition he is. The city of Atlanta embraces Kirk Cousins. He embraces this city. You look at the videos with the swaying stuff going on, with his trap thing that he sings, right? They love him over in ATL, and he has got that city completely behind him. Even though they drafted Penix, everyone right now is on the Kirk Cousins train. But he's sitting at 185 completions on 271 attempts, which is a 68.3. Dude, he's almost at a 70% completion percentage, over 2,000 yards already, 14 tutties, and 7 interceptions with a QB rating of 97.8. Yeah, that's good. That is good QB play right now. I know a lot of teams are regretting not signing Kirk Cousins in the offseason. Next, we got the Philadelphia Eagles sitting at number 10, 5-2. They beat the Bengals 37-17. They went up from 11 to number 10. And their best offseason acquisition was Saquon Barkley, which we all figured would be their best offseason acquisition. He was the best player for the New York Giants, and they let him go. But so far, he's sitting with 130 carries, 766 yards. He's going to break that 1,000-yard mark easy, probably in the next couple of weeks. He has a 5.9-yard average with 5 tutties on the season, with 17 receptions for another 100 yards and a tutty. But look, now that we're in the top 10, let me go ahead and remind you guys once again, if you're watching the video, don't forget to go ahead and send a like. The likes help the videos out, and go ahead and subscribe. It helps the channel. More subscribers, more likes, gets more people into the channel. We can have a better conversation. Go ahead and send some comments too about your team and anything I might have missed about them. We can go ahead and talk about it down below. Next, the Minnesota Vikings. They are 5-2 on the season. They lost to the Los Angeles Rams 30-20. They are consistently dropping in the rankings since their 2 losses, right? They end up dropping from 6 to 9. But their best offseason acquisition was Andrew Van Ginkel, right? And so we're going to go ahead and see how he's helped out the Minnesota Vikings this year. This man is sitting at 33 total tackles, 25 solo, 8 assists, 5 tackles, and a forced fumble, along with 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions went for 2 touchdowns. Hey, that's outstanding. And he has a few pass deflects as well. Next, we got them Steel Boys, the Pittsburgh Steelers, sitting at 6-2. They're switching quarterbacks. I mean, they started Fields for a while. Now they brought in Wilson, and they're still being successful. They beat the Giants 26-18. They have 2 starting quarterbacks on their team. It's good that Wilson was able to turn his career around. He's looking like the quarterback he used to be in Seattle. He's no longer the Broncos QB, where he just looked horrendous out there, you know. But anyway, they stayed the same at rank number 8 after beating the Giants. Their best offseason acquisition was Deshaun Elliott, which is a safety. And messing things up right now. All right, so far, he ended up getting 58 total tackles, 38 solo, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and an interception to help them Steel Boys out, all right? Next, we're talking about the Washington Commanders. What a shocker coming into the year. No one expected their season to be turned around the way it has been. Everyone thought they were going to be another garbage team at the bottom of the league, where they typically are. No hate to the Commander fans. But they are now 6-2. They beat the Bears 18-15 on a Hail Mary play from Jaden Daniels. And they went from number 9 to number 7. Of course, their best offseason acquisition is Jaden Daniels. You can say that without a doubt. He has turned this organization around. Oh, we got a comment in there. Niner Nation, baby. That's what they're saying. Desiree. Niners beat Tampa on November 10th. Yep. Hey, Niner Nation. I'm telling you. Brock Purdy. I don't think we got to the Niners yet. We'll see them. They're a little higher in the rankings. But yes, Jaden Daniels, he has 148 completions on 206 attempts, over a 70% completion rate, 71.8. He's doing better than Kirk Cousins. 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. An outstanding play from Jaden Daniels. Next, we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, right? They ended up losing to the Browns, which is a surprise. But hey, the Browns, they played Winston, different team now, with Winston at the helm. But yes, they are 5-3. They were ranked 4 last week. Now they're ranked at number 6. And of course, their best offseason acquisition was the Tennessee Titan legend Derrick Henry, who's looking like he's probably going to get 2,000 yards this season because we're only going into week 9. And if we look at the stats, he has 145 carries for 946 yards. He's basically at the halfway point already. So he just got to stay on pace, maybe get a little bit more. He can make that 2,000-yard mark. He has 9 touchdowns. Now, this is the big problem with Derrick Henry. He only has 8 receptions, 66 yards. He has a couple tutties on it. He doesn't catch the ball much. That's the thing with Derrick Henry. When he's in, you know that you're running the ball. It's probably a run play or a play-action play where he's just staying in the block or he's just a decoy to the side. They're not going to throw it to Derrick Henry. That's how it was in Tennessee, which made us highly predictable. But, of course, we didn't have Lamar Jackson in the backfield. That helped things out. Next is the Houston Texans, 6-2. Boy, I hate Houston, but they are obviously the best team in the AFC South, sitting at 6-2. They beat the Colts 23-20, and their best offseason acquisition was Joe Mixon, but they did jump up in the rankings from 7-5 from last week because they are one of the top teams. They're going to the playoffs. They're going to win this division by far. But so far on this season, Mixon has 102 carries, 503 yards, 5 tutties, 14 receptions for 115 yards, and another tutty to go with it. Next, the Green Bay Packers, 6-2, and that's with Malik Willis starting a decent amount of games. That is wild. And look, the Malik Willis played again last week, and they beat the Jags 30-27. We got rid of Malik Willis. He was our backup's backup. We said you're not good enough to be a starting QB in the NFL, and sure enough, Matt LaFleur ended up making the best game plan possible for Malik Willis to just continue to let Malik Willis win and thrive in Green Bay. But they go up from 5-4. Their best offseason acquisition was Xavier McKinney. He's a safety. Oh, I accidentally clicked instead of opening a new tab. Give me just a second. Amateur hour, I am telling you. All right, here we go. Let's see what Xavier McKinney has done for the Green Bay Packers. He's sitting at 36 total tackles, 26 solo, 10 assists, 1 sack, a forced fumble, and 6 interceptions. That is wild. He has more interceptions than the entire Titans turnovers, or defensive turnovers, not just interceptions. I'm talking forced fumbles and interception. He has more interceptions than the entire Titans team put together in turnovers. That is insane when you think about it like that. We don't make turnovers as a Tennessee Titan team. Next, the Buffalo Bills. They are 5-2. They ended up beating the Seahawks 31-10. They stayed exactly where they are at number 3. And look, their best offseason acquisition is Keon Coleman, a wide receiver. He ended up getting so far 21 receptions on 34 targets, 396 yards, 3 tutties for the Bills. Next is the Detroit Lions, sitting at 6-1. They ended up dominating, destroying. I can't put enough words or verbs on it to say how bad they beat the Tennessee Titans, but it was 52-14. It could have easily been 70 points, but Dan Campbell, hey, he's a merciful leader. He started running the ball in the fourth quarter. He put in Hendon Hooker, who only had 3 passes in the fourth because everything was just run plays. He was running out the clock just to ensure he didn't put up 70 points and embarrass the Tennessee Titans organization even more than what they were already embarrassed. But yes, 52-14, arguably the best team in the NFL. I know the Chiefs are number 1, but the Detroit Lions should be up there with them. And their best offseason acquisition was their kicker, Jake Bates. Let's see how he's done for him. So far kicking, he's made every field goal he's attempted. He's 11 out of 11, which includes a 50-yarder and 3 field goals that between 40 and 49. So he's not making just chip shot field goals. He's also kicking them pretty deep for the Detroit Lions. And, of course, the number 1 team, what should we expect, because they've been the number 1 team, I think, the entire season. Every week when we do this is the Kansas City Chiefs, because ESPN loves them. The NFL loves them. The refs love them. The Swifties love them. So, they ended up being the number 1 team, 7-0. They're not going to lose. They're hiding behind the shield. They got to make the playoffs, the Super Bowl. Hopefully they do make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie, because in that trade that we gave them, D-Hop, We ended up, it's a 5th-round pick, but it could become a 4th-round pick if they just make the Super Bowl. But they beat the Raiders 27-20, and they're still number 1. And their best offseason acquisition is their receiver, Xavier Worthy. They ended up drafting him out of Texas. He has 19 receptions on the season on 37 targets, 235 yards, and 3 tutties. That's what he did to help them out. And where were the Niners? I thought we didn't get to them yet, but I guess they were. Oh, we just passed them right when you said something. Yeah, the Niners, they were at 12. From beating the Cowboys. Didn't want to forget about you, Desiree. But hey, look, those that are still with me right now, don't forget to leave comments, like, and everything like that. Share, subscribe, because it all helps the channel out. It helps bring people in. But like I said earlier in the video, don't forget to make sure you subscribe, because I post videos all throughout the week. Post-game videos on Mondays, pre-game videos on Fridays, shorts and longer videos and lives all throughout the week. I do watch parties on Sunday. Most weeks, I didn't last week because I knew we were going to get blown out. The games have been miserable to watch. And also, I do a halftime report, if I'm not doing the watch party. So it'll all be available to me. But let me know down in the comments how you feel about your team's rankings down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tighten up, baby.